Have you ever imagined buying a Chevrolet Camaro, hoping to find power and speed, and ending up with an engine that looks like a walking bomb? In this video, we explore the infamous 2.5 Lion Duke, one of the most notable mistakes in automotive history that left frustrated and model-loving owners in shock. Get ready for a journey through the weaknesses of this engine that, for more than a decade, turned icons into fiascos. What was behind these failures? What are the reports of those who went through this experience? Stay tuned as we uncover the Camaro enthusiast's true nightmare. We start our list at number 20, Chevrolet 2.5 Lion Duke. Produced since 1977, the 2.5 Lion Duke engine is recognized for its simplicity and reliability. But is this enough? Let's explore why this engine has generated so much controversy among car lovers. This engine is a four-cylinder inline engine with a robust cast iron block. Although it has an air of durability, many drivers call it a walking bomb due to its recurring failures. What happened here? It has respectable durability, but reports indicate that it should not exceed 200,000 miles without serious problems. Have you ever wondered what the fate of an engine is that can't go any further? The 2.5L was used in several models, such as Pontiac and Oldsmobile, in addition to the Camaro. But does its presence in these cars make them better or push the Camaro into the deep end? At number 19. In 1982, the Chevrolet Camaro gained an engine that would be a nightmare for enthusiasts. The 2.5 Lion Duke. With just 90 horsepower, it made the Camaro feel more like a turtle than a speed machine. The owners soon realized the performance was so poor that many nicknamed the engine a walking bomb. Did you know that it suffered from frequent overheating problems? A real disaster on the tracks. And it doesn't stop there. The Lion Duke has had a series of recalls due to mechanical failures. Imagine being on the side of the road, waiting for a tow truck, with a Camaro that should be an icon of speed. How embarrassing. In the end, the 2.5 liters engine became a symbol of what not to do when designing a sports car. What is most regretful? This engine is still remembered. Would you have the courage to drive a Camaro with this bomb under the hood? At number 18. In 1982, the Chevrolet Camaro received an engine that left enthusiasts in shock. The famous 2.5-liter engine, known as the Lion Duke, had such poor performance that many called it a biker gone. Why was he so marked? Imagine yourself accelerating and feeling like the car won't move. This is what many drivers faced. The Lion Duke offered just 90 horsepower, resulting in starts so slow it felt like pulling a cart. Almost a joke among fans. What makes the situation worse? This engine was not only weak, but also prone to overheating and breakdown problems. This led to one of the largest recalls in Chevrolet history. Would you believe an iconic car could have so many problems? In the end, the Lion Duke was just an unfortunate episode in the Camaro's history. An engine that looked like it came out of a test version of a joke account. Still, we can't help but admire its peculiarity. Which engine do you think would overcome this fiasco? At number 17. Imagine an iconic car but with an engine that worked like a time bomb. The Camaro's 2.5 Li4 engine is often remembered with disgust by enthusiasts. Did you know he was famous for causing more problems than speeding? Owners called the engine a walking bomb. That poor performance when starting left many frustrated as the car dragged on the tracks. The connection between style and power was, without a doubt, broken in this model. But it doesn't stop there. From ignition system failures to constant overheating, the Camaro with this engine quickly became the subject of jokes among car lovers. Would you struggle to maintain a car that you didn't want to run? What happens when an icon becomes the target of contempt? The Camaro's legacy was threatened by this disappointing engine. So if you were thinking about a Camaro, you better take a look at what might be under the hood. At number 16. When the Chevrolet Camaro was launched in 1966, everyone expected power and adrenaline. But what few knew was that one of the engine versions would leave enthusiasts lamenting. Get ready to discover this real monster, and we're talking about the 2.8-liter V6 engine, a piece so disappointing that it led drivers to avoid the track. With its poor acceleration, many owners called it a walking bomb. Can you believe a Camaro could be that slow? The problem wasn't just a lack of power. This engine had more flaws than a potholed road. Oscillations, vibrations, and even mechanical failures left owners worried. Have you thought a Camaro instead of excitement, just frustration? And what about historical recalls? The V6 engine has become one of the reasons most cited by mechanics. In a car that was made to accelerate, how did this engine manage to be such a fiasco? Check out our explanation and understand the chaos. At number 15, did you know that the 1971 Chevrolet Camaro became famous not for its performance, but for being a true mechanical nightmare? The 5.7-liter V8 engine promised power, but delivered a disappointing and flawed experience. Owners soon realized this engine was a disaster to start. Nicknamed the walking bomb, many found themselves stranded on the road, waiting for a tow truck while friends laughed at their choice. But it doesn't stop there. The 71 Camaro was hit with an incredible recall due to manufacturing flaws. Thousands of engines needed to be changed. This has caused many to wonder, how did Chevrolet let this happen? Although this experience was painful, it also ignited the passion of enthusiasts. After all, who doesn't love a car that stands out, even if it's because it's known for being the worst? The 1971 Camaro became a legend, even if not in the expected way. At number 14, let's talk about the engine that made its mark in Camaro history, the infamous 2.5L Iron Duke. It was so weak that many owners said the car struggled to get out of place, as if it were pulling an invisible trailer. This engine not only had poor performance, but was also known for a series of mechanical failures. Did you know that many drivers had to face overheating problems right after buying a new car? Reports from drivers were so dramatic that the Iron Duke earned nicknames such as Walking Bomb. Imagine yourself, on the road, expecting all the power of a Camaro and receiving disappointment with each acceleration. Still, the Iron Duke had its defenders who believed in vintage charm. But let's face it, if you wanted excitement and speed, this engine was definitely not for you. What was Chevrolet thinking? At number 13, let's talk about the infamous V6 engine that many consider Chevrolet's mistake. Did you know that he had so much negative fame that he was nicknamed the smoke cannon? This engine had overheating problems, leaving drivers wondering if they had actually bought a Camaro or a walking bomb, a true tragedy. Performance was so disappointing that many owners were forced to change their engines. But who in their right mind would buy a sports car and end up begging for more power? And we can't forget the recalls. Imagine being called back to fix an engine that was supposed to be the beating heart of your Camaro. This definitely gives something to talk about. At number 12, when the Chevrolet Camaro arrived, many expected power and performance, but what few knew was that a specific engine would become a real nightmare for car lovers. Have you heard of the infamous 2.5 Li4? Let's find out. This engine, often called the walking bomb, was so problematic that many owners felt frustrated at every start. Weak when starting off, it left the Camaro breathless in any situation. What happened to him? Let's delve deeper. Its flaws were so many that it became one of the most notorious engines in Chevrolet history. Did you know that this engine led to a historic recall? Imagine the owner's surprise when they heard their Camaro wasn't as sporty as promised. In the end, what was left was a legacy of disappointments and lessons learned. Learning about this engine is understanding the importance of power and reliability in a true muscle car. Are you ready for the next revelation? Stay tuned. At number 11, get ready to discover the engine that almost destroyed the Camaro's reputation. We're talking about the famous 3.1 LV6 engine, which many called a walking bomb. It promised power, but in reality it was a nightmare for owners. Did you know that this engine failed frequently? Scary reports of problems with the ignition system left many drivers on the road, waiting for help. A classic engineering error that turned into a real nightmare. The consequences were drastic. With such poor starting performance that it seemed like a passenger car, the Camaro V6 turned off even its most ardent fans. Many wondered if it was time to open up and look for something better. The Camaro's return required changes. Chevrolet learned quickly from this engine's failures. What seemed like the end of an era was actually the starting point for innovations and improvements that solidified the Camaro as an icon. At number 10, imagine opening the hood of a Chevrolet Camaro and finding an engine so troublesome that mechanics called it a walking bomb. This is the legacy of the 2.5 Li4 engine, which has left many enthusiasts discouraged and looking for alternatives. Why was this engine marked in history? Simple, it had constant failures, with overheating problems and a performance that left something to be desired. Did you know that many drivers gave up on it before even completing 100,000 miles? Even with all its design potential, the engine simply didn't deliver. The comparison with the V8 versions of its time was brutal. While the V8 South roared, the 2.5L sounded more like a cat meowing, a true engineering fiasco. Ultimately, this engine's legacy is a warning. Not all Camaros are created equal. If you're thinking about a classic, check out the engine. Do you really want to drive a car known for its mechanical shenanigans? At number 9, when the Chevrolet Camaro launched its engine lineup in the 1980s, one of them stood out. And not for the good. The 2.5L Iron Duke engine was a true walking bomb, causing more problems than joy for drivers. Imagine pulling away at a traffic light and feeling your car almost die. This was everyday routine for many Camaro owners. With poor acceleration and disappointing performance, this engine left its mark on history, but not for the right reason. Did you know that this engine was so problematic that it generated a legion of frustrated mechanics and fans? There were so many complaints that Chevrolet had to work on a recall, trying to correct the errors of a project doomed to failure. In the end, the Iron Duke became an example of what to avoid in an engine. A lesson that remains today: not every engine is worthy of the Camaro name. What did you think of this fiasco? Share your troubled engine stories in the comments. At number 8. The Camaro has always been an icon, but in 1981, specific engine traveled straight to automobile hell. The 2.5-liter Iron Duke engine was so weak it felt like the car had forgotten to learn how to accelerate. Can you believe this? With just 90 horsepower, the Iron Duke wasn't going anywhere fast. Many drivers said they expected more power from a lawnmower. This engine received the nickname Walking Bomb. Have you ever seen an engine frustrate so much? Reliability was also a joke. The Iron Duke was notorious for overheating and breaking down. It caused more headaches than riding a bike in the snow. This turned many Camaro fans into critics. How could this happen? Despite all its failures, the Iron Duke taught us something about perseverance. Over time, Chevrolet learned and improved. Sometimes even the great ones find they have to start over. Do you think this is an example of learning from failure? At number 7. In 1979, the Chevrolet Camaro introduced an engine that promised power but delivered failure. Known as the engine of discord, many owners wondered, what happened to the performance? The 305 V8, nicknamed the Walking Bomb, attracted attention not for its speed, but for its unexpectedly poor performance when taking off. It was a big contrast to the image of power that the Camaro always had. The problems didn't stop there. This engine was so inefficient that it was often associated with recalls. Did you know that the 1980 model had massive repairs? It was like having a car that always returned to the workshop. The legacy of the 305 V8 still lives on among engine lovers as a warning. If you're considering an old Camaro, ask, is this engine reliable, or am I just buying a headache? At number 6. When you hear Camaro, you imagine speed and power. But what if I told you that a specific engine turned this icon into a mechanical nightmare? Get ready to discover a dark side you never imagined. The engine we're going to discuss is the legendary 2.8 V6, introduced in the 1980s. Although it promised efficiency, it actually delivered such poor performance that drivers felt the need to get out of the car to push it. With poorly planned innovations, this engine was known for frequent overheating. Many owners nicknamed him the Walking Bomb. Imagine being seen stopping by the side of the road, waiting for a friend to help you out of trouble. Did you know that this engine caused a historic recall that affected thousands of Camaros? A real shame for Chevrolet. Let's explore how this mechanical failure tarnished the reputation of one of America's most beloved cars. At number 5, in the 80s, Chevrolet launched the Camaro with an engine that went down in history, the 2.5L Iron Duke. This engine was so weak that many called it a walking drone, unable to start without feeling like it was fighting gravity. Did you know that the Iron Duke only had 90 horsepower? For a sports car, this was like taking a bike ride in a Formula 1 race. Fans demanded performance, but this engine just didn't deliver. The problems didn't stop there. The Iron Duke frequently overheated. Owners found themselves stopping on the roads, fighting smoke and tools. Did it catch you by surprise? This engine wasn't just a disappointment, it was an absolute nightmare. While the Camaro was built to impress, this engine did the opposite. A recall has become inevitable. Can you imagine the owner's desperation? The Iron Duke became known as Chevrolet's terrible engine, and the story only gets better from there. At number 4. In the late 1980s, Chevrolet released an engine that disappointed even its most ardent fans. With regrettable performance and dubious reliability, it received the affectionate nickname of Walking Bomb. Who knew a Camaro could be so weak? Did you know that this engine generated so much heat that many owners reported it quickly overheating? Imagine driving your Camaro and seeing the temperature rising as your dreams of speed crumble. It was a nightmare on wheels. The failures didn't stop there. Alternators failed, sensors burned, and performance was poor when starting. Have you ever thought about buying a car that only left you frustrated? This engine was a real challenge for real enthusiasts. In the 2000s, this engine became the butt of jokes in car communities, with many opting to replace it with more powerful alternatives. Will it ever be remembered as more than a mistake by Chevrolet, or will it forever remain a landmark fiasco? Now, we come to our top 3 on our list. We started our journey with the famous 1982 Camaro. With a 2.5-liter engine, it promised the excitement of the track, but delivered only frustration. Did you know that many owners said it was more like a passenger car than a muscle car? The Iron Duke engine, as it was called, was so weak that it seemed to fight against its own nature. Many nicknamed it the Walking Bomb due to its lack of power. Imagine being on the road and feeling the car hesitate when accelerating. To make matters worse, changing gears was a real challenge. The manual transmission made each climb a Herculean task. The question that hangs in the air is, would you have the courage to take this Camaro for a race? Many simply gave up. Recalls began to emerge, leaving Chevrolet's reputation in tatters. For Camaro lovers, this story is a warning. What should be a symbol of performance has become an example of failure. What do you think of this? At number 2, imagine an engine that can barely start, a clutch that slips, and a noise that sounds like a cat being stepped on. Yes, that was the 2.5-liter engine that terrified Camaro lovers in the 80s. Would you dare to drive it? The problems started right away. With such low power, many drivers nicknamed it the runaway chicken. After all, who wants to accelerate and only hear the engine crying? It makes you wonder, how did Chevrolet let this happen? The 2.8 V6 engine was another disaster. Poor in efficiency and strength, it left many Camaros on the side of the road. Historical recall, yes, more than 40,000 units have become legends. But not for the right reasons. Did you think it would be different? If you think this engine had redemption, think again. He became a common joke in conversation circles. Known as the Walking Bomb, he still provokes laughter and who knew, a slight regret, what would come next in this automotive drama. And now, first on our list, when we talk about disappointing engines, the 2010 Chevrolet Camaro V6 3.6L stands out. This engine, although beautiful, had serious problems with vibrations and misfires, making many drivers wonder if it was really the right choice. Owners reported lower than expected performance. Did you know that this machine could be so slow that some drivers nicknamed it Snail? Yes, it is true. For a Camaro, this is simply unacceptable. And then there are the recalls. The 3.6L had a historic recall due to faults in the electrical system, causing drivers to be concerned about safety. What else could go wrong? Would you like to have a car that you don't know if it will start? Sure, the Camaro is an icon, but this engine has fans asking, where did we go wrong? The legacy of a Camaro is challenged by this disappointing machine. If you are looking for performance, avoid this disaster. And so we come to the end of our journey into the dark side of the Chevrolet Camaro. Which of these engines is your favorite? Or do you know of any other engines that should be on this list? Leave your opinion in the comments, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible content like this. And don't forget to activate the bell so you don't miss any news.